روتم مدلتي والشعري روتم أخناني وخطاشيتا بالخط آرا كل بريتم الزويا خيرتوتم مدلتي والشعري روتم أخناني وخطاشيتا بالخط آرا كل بريتم
خدني سنيدا ومتعنايا خد بيه كل عشرايا خدني سن خودا تقاتن رمزلة نطرخ لي توتن خدني سن شوخ الله يا مولا دقا كل شرايا خدني سن خويا دقاتن همن تا نطرخ لي
يا خوري تغزي وديو هيك مطيار
أمو كخوات عطر أمتي دول السطيار
قاموا بروني مصورة قضية زردا شر للخطية
بارخينا بارختيا بس أمتي مراشتيا
قاموا بروني مصورة قضية
زرقت أشهر للخطية
بارخيلة وبارختيا
بس أمتي مراشتيا
خدني سنيدا ومتعنايا خد بيه كل عشرايا خدني سن خودا دقاتن ورمزلة نطرخ لي توتن خدني سن شوخ
خون برکاوتروخون او بریخا هر بده دانه ایدو خون زاو بریخا عبیتون رو به بسیمی قید جدا برکاوترو دیومت خوشی به دانو خون موتاتون و تیتون و شروکتون آمان قید عبیتون لخق زویاخد نیسن گو کانتی سنت کلیر جدا سامه بطلاب من کلون تنقید کلا غلق نشنال انتمد امریکا اترا بریخد امریکا و هر بده دانه من بارده این زیغ نشنال انتمد سویره بسیم رابا بسیم رابا هر بدان از بیایم و دنام منتب بلشانت انگلیس من نیام سوپروایزر اوتولی قلتی لخا Mr. Supervisor, thank you so much for making the time and coming over and joining us for the celebration of flag raising today. Thank you so much. Juda sana بیایم و طالبان و من یورتا راشد سفیان دابرانت شد هبودت آتور گندیت سرمزه اتیا آن ستیج قبلت بشن.
وید باسم تمانکا. نام تیم قبل شلم علوخون مغروب وان شلمی و خوبی قکلوخون عنی تیبنا لخا عنی بغزایونا اها زولا بمسعيوتة social media يعني بكل بصلة فيتلا على الانترنت بغزايونا. I also would like to acknowledge and thank Supervisor Otoli for sponsoring our program, our flag raising, sponsoring the Assyrian community within the Santa Clara County, the great diverse county of Santa Clara. As this has been a tradition within this county for over 18 years now, and it continued, and thank you for not letting this tradition to fall apart and continue on with that. Also بیاین قبلا مشينا قيكل شو تاس قد أشيتا شريكلون أمان ويلان أم أيدال مريزان داها ميان داها خرزالي توتا أها خرزد مرامتد آتا وتلن هيبي قد بشن داتيد زهر همشا أها بالخانة باش خميا الأغلا وأنا شو تاس تناية تودي تناية وسبراي مردو تناية بكل بصلت إينا جدا هم دي تهر بالخيام أيدال وخبطي قد خامي الراز ريزة أمتن والتشئيتان أطيب تشئيتان نطرخلا دكتور إلى قد متخرنون شو تاس أمران بريش قد شريكنا قد تريزو ياخد مرامتد آتا قد بتهابي منن بلكي تلخى خكمة منه أديو لنا سبب بدايق أديو يوم تخشيبة اتفراب أولويات وواجبيات جريك كشيبة مكملة إنا إيتد مدن خاي ماريوسب هرب دانا عمرد إيتا قاتوقيتا كلديتا عطرات المات مريم هرب دانا قاتولي قايد مليتة سان هوزي عمرد سان فرانسيسكو بريني اتلان مدرد يامتد منتا من عمرد إيفانجيلاية وعمرد بيت إيد وشو تاسن امتناية خويادتي ولاية آتورايا قد لخائنا زجدو ميقرا كارلو جنجا وهرب دانا ميجي بد زاد مقرطاي آتورايا ميقرا تشارسينا وهدام خينا رابب شنتيتون شو تعبوتد شو تاسد Assyrian Aid Society سيتاد أدراند آتورايا وإزجدوتد ميقرا ناتالي بابلا وهدام خينة شريكنا كلان أم أيدالة بغداي قد عملي ما يخلل شعرة وبزت لان خاشو تاسا خاطا قد بيش لشو تسا متختريشن همونن بيوم Bay Area شو تاسد Assyrian Democrats of Bay Area قد أشيتا أمان إينا وهرداد أنا بينتني أن كليت شو تعبوتت آتر جمديت سان هوزليلة هجخا كليتا بوليتيقيتا إلى خا unbiased organization إينا هرداد أنا بالخانان بوليتيقاي لازم إلى قد عابي قداها أطرا قد يبتخي أرخد بالخانة قد جوانقن خاماتن الكل خابابا بوليتيقاي إينا وبتهابي خا أرخد منتيتا قد اللي منز خاماتن زي أمسي أزي شولان بوليتيقاي أودي بغدايق أمان إيتون مدري كلتن بوليتيقيتا ليلا إيبخ unbiased إينا هردادانا أهجبو جزي بغزايق قد لازم إليجي أمتن عدل شيتخطا تورتا Assyrian New Year, it is the oldest celebration in the human civilization, as Assyrians marked the counting of the days and the months, and dividing the months into days and dividing the year into 12 months. Assyrians began observing the spring equinox and fall equinox and celebrated the Assyrian New Year on the beginning of the spring as a revival of life, as a renewal of life. And we're delighted today, again, to be back in Santa Clara County, as last year after COVID, this county was open, this building was open for the first time for the Assyrian flag raising. They opened it as the first event of the year. And we're glad that once again we're gathered here this time inside the chamber together to celebrate the Assyrian New Year. And we hope that this revival of life, renewal of life this year will bring better fortune for everyone, a better life, better health for everyone. And at the same time, we like to remember people of Ukraine that we know they are suffering gravely. They are in our thoughts and prayers. I don't think any human being on the face of the earth can see those atrocities and does not feel the pain of those brethren. And we are saddened even more, not only as a human being to see other humans being suffering, but also these people are even closer to our heart. We have a large community of Assyrian Ukrainians that are suffering. We have not been able to get a hold of them. We have heard from them. They called us, they asked for help, and when we are trying to reach out to them, it's hard to get a hold of them. It's unfortunate to hear that Assyrian soldiers within the army of Russia and Ukraine on both ends are dying among the other lives that are getting destroyed. And it's all happening because of the acts of invasion of Russian leaders. Again, I do not want to take this to political realm, but it is inevitable that we see these atrocities and we are against these atrocities as human beings and as Assyrians. And our organization, as a non-profit organization, we empathize with these people and we look for ways to help the people in need. So with all that said, even though it is a new year and we are celebrating the new year and we are happy, we know that unfortunate things are all around us too. We acknowledge those and we only hope that things will move on for better. With that, I like to say again, happy Assyrian New Year, happy oldest New Year of the human civilization, year of 6,772, and may this year be a year of peace and understanding and fortune. Thank you.
قاسم تراغم بوتا راشد همزميات بوتا خانيات شاملي جدا سامة بايم طلبان من ميورا كارلو جاجة ريشانة خيالتي ولاية قد تعقد لها on stage و أجمع همزميات فاسي
بشلام والخطفات ياخونواتي مغبة باروخوون رشيتا وطوريتا خب نيسان الكولان توخون من مريا بطلابا قد أشيتا خطا ويخاشيتا مليتا من بركاته مليتا من خوبة وبالخانة طابقة ومتان جبارتا طوريتا هردت هار قد ميقرسا رشل متخرا ودي يوما ومتديا المدري إلى يخادنا خوزداقيا خينا بتخاطر الطلاش قد أخروات بعدنا ميدالة نيش سبيسة ودي يوما خامنيانا جورا من آتوراي قربان هل تشعر بيجانا قد يوكرين بيشنا مجبج بخيلة بتفاتيش فيقينا خيوتا منيدا يوانا وريقنا سامد مارا بد يوكرين من كلان تخون بطلاب من قد قاعدة سلوتا صاليتون من مريا قاعدة هيارتا طلبيتون وهردادان تا جلدويتا بتخيتون للبوخون قاعدة وعبيتون هيران قاعدة السندان أخرا إتلان يبال تشقلتا من شو تعبوزة أطرايد يوكرين أمام شئيت المدن خاسيرو خيكنا قرقزيات بيش نبيد قد جلدويتا هياريات المقودنا بالبشي شدر قاطرات قد يوكرين كان دي بيان متخرب نقاطوخون ريش نيسان إلى ويعمل كيانا خشارة خطة خاومتا بایانی منتی یعنی گلگوریزو پلخانو ما يشخلاق يتخونياتو احنا دانو لقد قدام تنايوتن ما ياخن خكمة شخلاق قد كود جملة باخن بيلا بداية قد امتنايوتن او يوم قيم بزود الابراي باشا قمن تاتت قمن تاتت بالخانا امتنت لسنيقوتا الريزة من شيتة البجم واشتتمانيا خيادة ولايات ورايا مش خد للدام دي قد امتدين جرابي لريزة حاجة باشمت لو بتخاطرت مردوطا بوليتيقيتا تخنيات قد اتلان هل بديو معاريزة لخويا ميسا يخلل يتوتا لا خيادة ولاية امتاطورة للمسلام ديو دالا تخنيات بريشة أشيرتان جبن شتاسن قديا رخقلنا مدال قبل خاطر داي بغزايتون قد بالخانة امتنايا منتيانا ليلة قمن تاتت بالخانة جرموي دال بالخاخن شوق من داي خاتشارة خيطة لتلان ايه يلقوخ البرقان داونتا قبل خاطر داي من كلان توخن بطلابون قد كد يمجو صلاواتوخن كو تخمنياتوخن طلبيتون قد اقوم تموي دال بالخاني موي دال بالخاخن اتلان خاخرة جبارة اتلان ناشليبة اتلان جوان اخامات هديرة قد امسي نويرت امتنايو تلبليل لقماي قائمش النخينة إن الليت يعني إيتوتا إن قوي دال لابر مياخن إن موي دال لابر خاخن قاقو تامة بيان جانت من تود من شو تابوتت أطرائي سانوزي من يقرص راشل يوسفيان بخاطر بالخاند بتولا راشل خاكيار رابا جورتا بيولال دا تانخن مردوتت خبنيسن وقت جمديت سانوزي ومكلا توخن مجبيان جانت من تود قد شركان بيتون ومن آلات طلب قد أعبلوكم خشو يمانة ملي من بلكات خادوتا ومنتاتا أعبتم باسين
باسیم راما میاغرا کارلو گنجه جدا سامد باید طلبان من میاغرا سایرس یگر من Assyrian Democrats of the area قد مغرب الهمزانيات والي قابلهم
السلام عليكم أهتم باسم قدر دانا قتيل بشتلي بلتا أنا باي بقارن والونينا برينتر ليفربول خانة سيلفون دراب الصورة لاست من صوب جربن همزة منون تخمني أعتقد كتيبا با شيت اشتغل في شغل مشابهة بخشابين يعني مغزوي لقد كما امتدين resiliency اتلا باشرت خامت جانو كما أطرت لا امتدين جب بارميتو ديتو وباشرتو قد جانو خميتو لمن كل يعني قبل ديوسي قد قبل من جب اشتاء البشني تخمنوا هالجبدني شند أخلم بخايبخ كما من يعني خزيبخ كما داني قتل بيلون وأنت اشتاء البشني اشتاء البيجاهد خم يعني بينا راقي ان اي سي سي تي نخيشنا ان كل مدرتها ودي اخنا حالا بياشه بخ غير اخرابا يعني يطانت قدر دا هيريتج اتريتو امتن اتلا اي كانوا مظبوط لقد امتا مجد سنخت لقد اخنا خامخلا بدا من دي ميدلايا بخلا الى خام من بوش عتيق تانخ civilization ين مردوته جبدونيه I would just want to offer my thoughts in English as well. The Assyrian year of 6772, the number in and itself is a witness of how great this nation has been to be able to survive that many long years. Many nations have risen and fallen, and many we in our own lifetime have seen so many tragedies, so many losses of life, and nations been disappeared from the face of earth. Yet this Assyrian civilization has been able to miraculously survive all these tragedies. And one reason that we are here today, Assyrians in Bay Area, is the fact that democracy is the foundation that supports and gives this possibility for all people from different races and beliefs to be able to survive, to live and together and peacefully survive. And this is coming because of the democracy, the fact that this is the solution for humanity going forward. And democracy is something that worth fighting for. And that's why Assyrians last year, Assyrians in Bay Area came together to create this chapter, Assyrian Democrats of the Bay Area, an affiliate of the Bay Area Democratic Party, to do all we can to preserve democracy, because even here, democracy is sometimes in peril. So we believe that the democracy is something that we should strive to protect everywhere in the world, here and other parts of the world. And Assyrians are a small nation that need this to be able to survive. So with that, I again thank you for giving me this opportunity, and happy new Assyrian year of 6772. Thank you.
بسیم میاغرا سایرس یگ همز من خمداغرانه مجد إلى نيشت اشتراكاتها إذا تخمونت آمدني شني قد إتلان شتعب شبا مشاريت شني قد إتلان تشريت آتور جدا سما باید دابان من میاغرا فیراس جتو قد إلى خلاب دابرانت شتعبوت داتور يومديت سانوزه قد إلى مخ كينوت سبيكر لي قد آتبو همزميات مخربونا إقارو
من دي قماية شمي بشمت شو تابوت الآطر قبلهم شينا هاوتون باسي مرابا إقارة لقاتي قد همزون باس ملوءة دزوتا رشال بقرة مني قد همزون باس وسبرابا جاي ويلا دوراشا بينا باست رشيتا ورابنا شئت له أن بقرة بيضي مودي لتشقيته بيعتون بإنجليز سامرنا ينبسورت يعني mix أو دخسبت لن English. Okay, I'm going to give the talk in English. I'm going to give a brief talk about the history and the parallels between the Assyrian New Year and other New Years around the world, and the commonalities and the uniqueness. This subject, there are a lot of debates about this topic, given how old it is, and throughout the millennia, the beliefs and the faiths have changed throughout the time as it's progressed. So things have changed. So depending where you look in time, you'll get different parts of our history on it. But first, let's start with why a new year? Why should we have a new year? Well, the purpose of a new year, really, you can narrow it to three things. First, it's a starting point for counting years. People want to say, 10 years ago this happened, and 150 years ago this happened. So you had to have a means to count years. Number two, it's the start of a fiscal year for taxes. If you give someone money, or if you give them barley or wheat, and you say, I'll pay you back in a year, you have to. So for financial transactions, for government transactions and taxes, as taxes were developed, this is something that requires us counting, and that's why as people created civilizations, they had to create a method of measuring years. And last but not least, it became part of a lot of religious ceremonies. What are we here on earth for? What are the gods doing for us? We see the gods helping us to plant, and spring is coming to plant, or snow is coming, and so on, and a lot of agriculture. When do I go and plant? When do I harvest? So those are the three most common reasons for New Year's worldwide. Okay? So now we come to the invention of a New Year festival. Not just a New Year, but a festival. So it's widely adopted. You know, I had the pleasure to study ancient Near East in college, and I also read, I'm not an expert, what I've read, it's commonly accepted and widely accepted the invention, the earliest known record of a New Year festival was from Mesopotamia, from Assyria. The New Year, at times called Akitu, began at the new moon after the spring equinox. okay? So I'll explain why it's the new moon after the spring equinox. Now the new moon can start really early, the same as the equinox. Sometimes it moves around because it's lunar. So typically it happens between March 20th and as late as April 18th, okay? So the year is reset annually. So the way Assyrians did it, you get to the equinox and you look for the moon, the new moon to come up. The moon disappears, and the minute it starts again, that's the new moon. They reset the year. That's Rish Nisan, Chab Nisan, and that's the new year. Okay? So I have a picture about this. So at the top, first of all, what is an equinox? Equinox happens twice a year. The vernal equinox or the spring equinox happens obviously in the spring. And it's when the sun is right on the equator. When the sun is right on the equator, and the same as the rotation of the earth, everyone gets equal amount of day and night. Any other time of the year, if you're in Sweden, you may get a lot of day. If you're in North Pole or South Pole, it's very different. But on this day, it's the great equalizer. The whole world gets equal day and night. It's rotating and the sun right on the equator, so everyone gets it. So no matter where you are, you know when the equinox is. You can't say, I'm in Canada, it's different than Australia. The equinox is the equinox. So it's again, the great equalizer, and it tells people, let the farming begin. Now it happens again at the end of the summer, and that's another story, but obviously before the nights get longer, days get longer in the summer, and when winter comes, you get an equal one in the autumn or in the fall. Now, why a new moon? Why not just use the equinox and move on? First, it's really easily measurable. Farmers and travelers and anyone, today, if I ask what time is it, you all look at your iPhones and watch and go, this is the time, or what's the date? Back then, they didn't have iPhones. So the easiest way, it's what God gave them. They look up in the sky and they see the moon. And depending on how the moon looks, you know where you are as part of the month. So I don't know if you can see that picture. You can see the weeks. This is a typical week. This is from NASA's website. So you can look right at the top is the new moon. And then right when you see a first quarter of it, you know that's the end of first week. When you see a full moon, it's a second week. You see half the moon on the left, it's the third week, and so on. So you can tell by just looking up. It's like a digital display for mankind. Okay? So that's easily measurable. And whether you know it's exactly the day and night for the equinox, it's a little harder to measure. Not everyone can do it. The royalty and the scientists that are working for the kings can do it, but not everyone can do it. This helps you align it. And it's largely religious, renewal of rebirth, the moon disappearing, coming back, the new moon. So the gods are good for us, and now we can grow. So those two were leveraged, those two, and what's called, in scientific terms, is lunisolar calendar. So there's solar calendars, there are lunar calendars, and there's lunisolar calendars. So this year, the equinox actually happens on March 20th. The new moon, the first new moon, believe it or not, is happening on April 1st, Chab Nisan. That doesn't happen every year. This year, the new moon actually happens on Chab Nisan. Okay? So if we use these customs, the most records we have from the Assyrians, it's the first moon after the equinox. It's after March 20th. The first one that happens is April 1st. And that's the calendar you can see when it starts showing up on the 1st of April. So are we special in doing this? Do Assyrians using this lunisolar and new moon special? So here's a list. Who uses a lunisolar calendar? Assyrians, Jews, Hindus, Jain, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Vietnamese. You can see the list goes on and on. Solar, purely solar. Egyptians use solar. For a while, the Egyptians actually used a very unique calendar, not solar, not lunar. They use it based on the Nile, and when the Nile overflows, but eventually became solar. Julius Caesar, who we'll talk about, who created a lot of problems for calendars. Persians, Greeks, and Gregorian, the Gregorian calendar that we use today. Okay, so use purely solar. Now, this is argued, as I did a bit of research after Rochelle kindly asked me to talk about this. So today, the Gregorian calendar and the Julian calendar, some argue that even those are lunisolar calendar. Why? Because some dates, some holidays do move around, like Easter. So since they have ones that move around, they are connected to the lunar calendar. Therefore, there also, some classify them. So if you go and search Wikipedia, Google, you name it, Encyclopedia Britannica, you'll see sometimes the Gregorian and Julian are also shown as lunisolar calendar. And finally, lunar calendar is the Hijri calendar, the Islamic calendar. That's basically lunar, and that moves around. So certain dates move around over the years. Okay? So, first, springtime was the most popular New Year date worldwide. Throughout times, the millennia, this is the common date that was very popular. And is the Assyrian New Year very special to us? No, not really. Others also use the spring as a New Year. So just to put it in perspective, this bar shows how long we've been celebrating the New Year based around the equinox time, Rish Nisan. So the way we use it is based on the first temple of Ashur. Once they first recorded temple of Ashur that was developed is when you have ceremonies, and that's the belief that that's when the first festivals of New Year's were celebrated, 4750 BC, and we're in 2022, so you add the two, and that's how you get to 6772. Okay? So 4750, foundation of the temple of Ashur. Okay, we're in 2022. Now, believe it or not, the January 1st that we use today for New Year is less than 300 years old when it became widely adopted. It was adopted in some pockets, but widely adopted, it's less than 300 years old, including in the US. The 1500s, 1600s, 1700s, it was not based on this calendar that we use today. So I'll give you some background. Why January 1st? When did it come? The first time it was brought forward was 46 BC by Julius Caesar. So he's changed it to January 1st. Why January 1st? One of the gods, one of the pagan gods of the Roman Empire was Janus. January is named after Janus. So Janus was that's a picture of Janus. He's a good-looking guy. 2 heads, depending which way you look. But he had 2 heads. He was a god of doors. One door closes, another door opens. The older one looking at the past, the new one looking at the future. So it's a new beginning, a new door opening. And if you're kind to him and you give sacrifices, the other gods will like you, and it'll be a good year. So he said, let's change it to January 1st, based on the pagan god Janus. That's the Julian calendar. The problem with the Julian calendar is it was not accurate enough. He had Greek scientists and astronomers and astrologers help him out. It was a little too long. So it was 11 minutes too long. So every 128 years, you're 1 day behind. Every 128 years, it had this leap year and all that, but instead of being 365 days and a quarter, so every 4 years you get a leap year, it was more than a quarter, slightly more, that every 128 years, you're 1 day behind, which doesn't seem like a lot, but this is 46 BC. Whoever used a Julian calendar is a year behind over the centuries. You come to now, they're many days behind. So they have this issue on their hand. Everybody's like, we know it's behind. Should we change it? Should we not? Till they couldn't handle it anymore. And that's when the Gregorian calendar came in, which I'll talk about later. But this caused a problem. So people realized this even back then. So largely, it wasn't really adopted. Politically, it was adopted because no one wants to anger Julius Caesar. But the civil and legal years, they still wrote the years based on around March 25th. And this got further strengthened after Christianity because they tied it to a Christian holiday of the Annunciation. Okay? So they said, oh, and also it's tied to Christianity, March 25th. So people continued doing March, whether it's March 20th in some parts of the world, they're following solar, whether it's Europe where it's more March 25th, Assyrians with Rish Nisan in that time frame. But largely, this is what was used. And there are many records of that. So then January 1st it was kind of a fail. Okay? So now we come January 1st, take 2. Now we're going to get it right this time. So in 1563, there was a Council of Trent. This is a painting of Council of Trent. It was in Trento, Italy. The Roman Catholic Church got together and said, we have to respond to the heretics of the Protestants. Okay? Remember, the 1500 brought all the Reformationist churches, Bible-based churches, what's all these old customs, and this was going to put a stop to it. Many things were declared during the Council of Trent, but one of them is, let's fix this Julian calendar. Julian, it's very national affinity of Italy, Roman Empire. It's still those historical thoughts to tie them to old roots, but let's fix it. And that's where the Gregorian calendar came to being, which I will touch upon a little later. But they said, we got to fix it. It's January 1st. Everyone used January 1st. Obviously, the Catholic kings, absolutely, will take it on. I mean, they're all Catholic. The Roman Catholic Church said so. So King Charles of France, in 1564, a year after, came up with an edict, a rule. Thou shall, it's called Edict of Rosalind. And you have to use January 1st. Told the whole France, you have to use it. Which the Catholic countries, of course, went with it. Protestants said, no, I don't see why I should follow the Catholic Church. I'm not doing it. So like England, for example, Ireland didn't feel that they need to. They continued in March, April, similar to Assyrians. Okay, spring makes more sense. Springtime, snow melts, I can go farm, equinox, everything lines up. So at that time, the French pushed this idea that anyone that doesn't follow the new calendar is a fool, is an idiot. He's not following the times. So they had this thing that's apparently celebrated till today called Poisson d'Avril, the fish of April. Fish is gullible, easily caught, so they go around, pat you on the back, and they have a little sticker of a fish, or kick me, and people will come and kick you. April Fools. They send invitations. So they'd send invitations to Irish people to come to so-and-so. The King of France is inviting you to a New Year party in March. So these guys make a travel. The king invited us to a New Year party. They make it there. There's nothing. There's a sign, you're a fool. So they push them to insulting people, embarrassing them to change quickly. That caused a lot of people to change very quickly. Okay? So the Poisson d'Avril created this April Fool's Day. Okay? Now, again, this whole problem with Julian calendar, January 1st, fine, but it still is error-prone, has this error in it. So Pope Gregory the 13th said, let's fix the Julian calendar. Let's shorten it a little bit. It's a third decimal point. So those 11 minutes are back in. Now we're good. So that brought the Gregorian calendar that we use today. Okay? So it's 365 days and a quarter. Why a quarter? Because you have the leap year, it's every 4 years and all that. So now we're all good. Everybody please use it. Well, it's still coming from the Roman Catholic Church. So all those that are Protestants said, no, I'm not following it. I'm staying with mine. I don't see a reason to change. Even though it's accurate, I don't have to look at the moon. Do I change? Do I not? Keep in mind, a lot of the world, Asia, India, and others still are lunisolar, and they continue doing their thing. So how about the US? And when did England and the US start adopting it? So I don't know if you see this picture. This is actually from the almanac, the US almanac. That's the month of September. Do you guys see anything weird about the month of September? It's got like 2 weeks and 4 days. So it had Tuesday, the 1st of September, Wednesday, the 2nd of September, Thursday, the 14th of September. 11 days disappeared. That's correcting for Julius Caesar. Okay? So when they corrected it, it wasn't an easy change because, okay, everybody's calendar, all the financial transactions, if someone had a debt and they had to pay it off, how many days are left, it's a big deal. So they created this multi-step approach. So December 31st, 1750 was followed by January 1st, 1750. It's still 1750. Why? Because January is another month of the year, because the end of the year doesn't happen in January. It happens in March, keep in mind. So it's just the 10th month of the year, January. They were still on our calendar. This is the US, as well as England, as well as Ireland. March 24th, 1750 goes to March 25th, 1751, New Year. So that's still, and it's called Old Style, or you'll see in the records, OS. It's Old Style, like the Assyrians, okay? December 31st, 1751 is followed by January 1st, 1752. Now we're on the new style. That's when it really became January. So they had to do it by steps. And then in September, they decided to do this fix on the Julian calendar, Julius Caesar era. To fix it, they got rid of the 11 days. They went from September 2nd to September 14th, like that picture. Now we're all good. And in 1752, finally, the US, UK, Ireland was on board with January 1st. And that's when it became widely adopted. So it's less than 300 years old. So when you look at ours, the 6,772, keep in mind what we're celebrating today worldwide is relatively new. So this is interesting. This is a marriage contract in Connecticut. And the date is September 1752. September 17th, 1752, NS, New Style. Keep in mind, there's Old Style, New Style. So because people were still in the transition. So you got married. When did you get married? On the New Style. So just to show you that this is relatively new. Okay, so takeaways. First, Assyrian New Year shares many parallels with other cultures worldwide. You know, the whole spring festival, the equinox, Easter, St. Patrick's Day also, if you look at a lot of history on St. Patrick's Day, they'll tell you it's parallel with the old calendar, the old style. In many ways, springtime lends itself more naturally for a new year than January 1st. If you look at around you and you look in December versus January 1st, there's not much that changes. While during the equinox, certainly you can see a lot of changes around the world. And Assyrians have celebrated this year for over 6 millennia. They do plan to continue to celebrate it and promote it for at least another 6,772. As you can see in the pictures here, from ancient times to modern times. So first, Happy New Year, everyone. And I wish you a great 6,772. That's all I had. Thank you very much. I hope it was fun. Before I give the stage, I do want to give a quick plug. One of our community members, Sherby, who's here with us, I just found this out. I was on a plane and I saw that she has published a new book on the Assyrian New Year, which is really great. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. So I hope every one of you gets a few of them, give them to your friends and family, and let's get that wonderful book. Thank you again for it. All right.
Well, good afternoon, Sean Malakam, and really an honor to be speaking with you and actually inviting everybody here today for this amazing Syrian flag raising ceremony again. We've been doing this for 18 years now in Santa Clara County, started with Supervisor Pete McHugh. Supervisor Dave Cortese, my predecessor, has continued, and I'm also, of course, honored to be continuing this really important tradition to raise this flag. First of all, I want to say good afternoon. Thank you, everybody who has come out today to celebrate this event. And of course, I want to say special thanks to Rochelle Yosefian, again, from the Assyrian American Association of San Jose for coordinating this event here at the county. And of course, thank my staff, Tevu Nguyen, who has been always coordinating this for many, many years. So thank you for all your great work to make this happen today. Last year was our actually very first public event that we held was the flag raising of the Assyrian flag. And of course, being the first event, what I mean by that is after 2 years of COVID, we haven't been able to do any events indoor and outdoor. So that was actually our first outdoor event that we did, and that was very successful, able to get the flag to fly high up on our county building. And this year we were actually able to even do it indoor, thanks to the great work of everybody getting the vaccinations. Our county is now over 90% vaccinated, and I believe in the Assyrian American community, I think that number is way higher than 95% even. So you got an A+ for that. So thank you for getting people doing that. And now we don't even need to wear masks. You can still wear it, it's optional, but certainly it's no longer required because we have done so well. And I would just say thank you for all of the sacrifices everybody has done in the past few years. The Assyrian community is a beautiful community partner for our county, and we have a large and vibrant population that observes the Assyrian New Year. As we say, Kabab Nisan, yes, am I getting pretty close to that? By its Babylonian name Akitu on the spring equinox. This year marked on today, March 20th, 2022. And I'm very honored to listen to the lecture today to learn a lot about the calendar, which we just took as granted, and see the differences between the solar calendar, the lunar calendar. So I certainly learned a lot today myself. And you know, the spring equinox being celebrated in 12 days with parades and symbol of rebirth, life, hope, and order. And the Assyrian American community throughout our Santa Clara County holds this ancient tradition with celebrations involving parades and parties held by which add to the uniqueness and vibrancy of our county, of course. However, with the current situation that we see in Ukraine, in Kyiv, and so many cities there, I certainly want to let you know that we, right here in Santa Clara County, stand united with the international communities and condemn those brutal and senseless violence inflicted upon the Ukrainian people. And many Assyrian people, as you mentioned, also lives in Ukraine, sharing the same suffering. This attack has been going on for more than 3 weeks. Thousands have died, and definitely millions have been displaced now as refugees. Having served a year in Iraq in 2009 myself in Baghdad, which of course is the land of Assyria, I have also survived the bombs and the closest attack, which was 90 feet from me, of a rockets attack. And I get to see what's going on, and I know and really see the suffering of those who are in Ukraine today. The fight for democracy, for freedom, against fascism, against autocratic leaders, to tell the truth, and freedom of press is still so important today, and we shall never, ever take that for granted. And I would like to ask everyone to have a moment of silence to ask God to heal and bless those who suffer from this tragedy. Thank you. And I now would like to read a couple of the, we call whereases, for the proclamation that has been signed by the board of all the supervisors from Santa Clara County. Whereas the Assyrians are one of the oldest civilizations known to mankind, spanning nearly 7 millennia, and trace origins to a cradle civilization, Mesopotamia, located in parts of today's Iran, Iraq, Syria, Turkey. Assyria was named after its original capital, the ancient city of Ashur, which dates to circa 4750 BC. And that whereas Assyrians in Santa Clara County will hold an Assyrian flag raising ceremony in honor of this national identity in the new year on today, March 20th, 2022 at the county government center. Now therefore it be resolved that the board of supervisors of the county of Santa Clara does hereby proclaim March 20th, 2022 as the Assyrian National Day, Assyrian New Year 6772. Congratulations. And Rochelle, would you like to come up and receive this, and we'll take some pictures?
Thank you, Supervisor Atul.
Thank you.
This year it was a collaboration among several Assyrian organizations in the area, so I would like to ask representative of each organization to please join us in accepting this proclamation. Please, pardon.
Please.
Besmalochum. Thank you.
Do you want to take the picture in front or
Yeah.
back here? In front? Which will be the best? You tell me. For the photo purposes.
For the photo, we can stand one in the back, and then we can go in the front on two sides.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
So you do the lead now.
When
I'll
you're
follow you.
Okay.
Okay.
You know what?
Sure.
Let's go in the front first.
In front
while
first?
you're
Okay.
presenting.
Okay, good. All right. Please, absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Pardon. No. Hey,
Yes, come on. Yes, please. Please.
Well, thank you.
Okay. Yes, come on in. Yes, come on. Yes.
He's taking the picture.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Virasi?
Here, I'll stand.
No, okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes,
Supervisor.
it's really an honor. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you again.
Democrats of the area,
Oh,
Assyrian
good.
Democratic
Thank you.
Movement,
Movements, yes.
Assyrian Universal Alliance,
Thank you.
Assyrian Catholics of San Jose,
Likewise, thanks.
and Assyrian Aid Society.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And several other organizations that are
Yes.
collaborator, but today was Sunday and a lot of them had other unfortunate situations that they could not attend, but they are supporting us in spirit. And
That's great.
thank you very much again
Thank you very much for
sponsoring this day,
it's our
for
honor.
bringing the
Absolutely.
awareness and
Yes.
acknowledging this day within the Santa Clara County, as Assyrians are, you mentioned, vibrant community of
Mm-hmm.
Santa Clara, but also it's important for our community to be recognized. And thank you for being an advocate in
No,
doing
thank
that.
you. It's truly my
And also
honor.
for serving in land of Assyria.
Land Syria, that's right. Thank you again. Thank you.
حبيتون رابا بسيمة تشاركتو خون لخا ان بسمع لخون ريزا خامخلة شميت National Anthem in America كمتا و عقمي قرطة عزيز دابت مرمالي عاتد أمريكا ومن برداين بتعبيلان رمراما ومدرج بسمع لكم ريزا وشليتا مطرخلة وعجبان قمو قرطة مرمى عاتد أطوراي
Thank you.
ويا برخت شيتوخن خطة ويا برخت مرمت آتم خلت علامات ويومت قد آتت آتر بشر بربتا جو آتت يعني خطة إمبرستا الأربعة بنجيات التفل منتيتا بشولانا وطوصت انباتخينه جميعتون عتیتون میدال اورا خاگه گو چمبر خاشیکلا کلان میدال میگیرو شاق و شامن شابیر دابن رابط خادق میدال خاشیکلا میدال بسیم را
عزويا خيرتوتم مضلتي والشاريروتم أخناني وخطاشيتا من الخطارة كل بريتم عزويا خيرتوتم مضلتي والشاريروتم أخناني وخطاشيتا من الخطارة كل بيتا
خبني سني دنهم تعنايا خد بيه كل عشرايا خبني سن خودا تقاتن رمزلة نطرق لي توتن خبني سن شوخا الله يا مولا دقا كل شرايا خبني سن خويا دقاتن همان تا نطرق لي توتن
يا خوري تغزي وديو هيك مطيار
أمو كخوات أطر أمتي دول السطيار
قاموا بوني مصورة قضية زرداشر للخطية
بارخينا بارختيا بس أمتي نور رشتيا
قاموا بوني مصورة قضية
زرقت أشهر للخطية
بارخيلة وبارختيا
بس أمتي مرارة شتيا